our age of advanced technology.
And I'm doing great today, Dr. Ed. What's up?
People are naturally attracted to those who are authentic.
I always knew I would do something big. I knew I was built to do something special.
It led over time to a pretty dark place.
As soon as my feet hit the ground in the morning, I've made a choice not to stop unless I'm asleep.
You know, I'm a 22-year overnight success.
How do I find the freaking jack to get to the next level?
All right, Laptop Lifestyle listeners, I have an incredible guest today, and that is actually Dr. Josh Wagner. Josh, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ed. Thanks for having me on.
I have to tell you, you're going for the record. This is probably the third or fourth time that I've interviewed you for a podcast. This is incredible.
Yeah, this is at least 4.
But you know what? There's a reason for that, you know, and we can even, circle back on my original podcast, The Chiropractic Philanthropist, and your episodes continue to be the highest downloaded episodes because you always bring the value. So for entrepreneurs, the aspiring entrepreneur who's listening right now, just learning about Dr. Josh Wagner, tell us a little bit about you, tell us about your practice, but then also tell us about what you're doing online.
Sure. So by trade, started off as a chiropractor, built a profitable practice from scratch in New York City. Never thought I'd go there. And quickly into it, I realized, is this it? And I know a lot of people in that, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, I felt very confined by the 4 walls of my practice, but that could be for anyone's business. I felt some intra-professional issues. That practice was different from the reasons as why I got into chiropractic. I got into it from a very philosophical standpoint. And I knew, just like where I am now, if you said, are you going to be doing the same thing in 2 to 5 years? Absolutely not. It's a constant evolution and adaptation and growth. I think that's healthy for anyone in our body, in our relationships, in our career. I always knew I couldn't be stagnant, even if things were going well. And that's an important concept.
Yeah, because I mean, I got to tell you, the idea to go from a brick and mortar practice. So, I mean, this is relevant to anyone who's in business because chiropractic is healthcare. There is a business aspect to it. But to go from there must have been a pivotal moment for you where you just said, look, you know what? This is something that I need to pursue because we talked about in our pre-chat even that, look, you had to learn how to do video, although you're great at it. You had to learn how to write copy. You had to learn all those things, but you had to have a passion and a purpose behind why you actually did that.
Perfect. You brought that up. And we were talking before the recording, like, hey, what's the tactical aspect I'm going to talk about? And there's plenty I can, and it'll evolve in this conversation in the next few minutes. But I think one of the reasons why I've been on a few of your podcasts is not just that I'm giving tactical, but I'm giving the internal. And I didn't get into being able to have an online business and income and lifestyle because of my intention was not the tactical. My intention was not the revenue or the money. My intention 100% was following my passion and how to make that work. And I couldn't do that inside the brick and mortar of my brick and mortar business, whether it was a practice or not. And that's how it evolved for me. And that's a very, very important lesson and point is there's so many people chasing what they think may be an easy dollar or a lifestyle. Those are the side effects. Those are not what's going to drive you because it's going to be hard. A lot of times it's going to be harder and longer hours than a brick and mortar business or practice. And if you're not doing something you are absolutely passionate about and it's like a calling and a purpose for you, you're going to give up. And that's fine and that's normal, but just be prepared going into it that you better be going towards something that you really have an internal purpose and passion for. And in chiropractic, that stemmed for me was I felt really taken advantage of, and I don't even know what the right word is, but by a lot of the leadership in the field preaching what just doesn't work anymore with the changes of what's going on inside healthcare and chiropractic. The same strategies that have been taught for 30 years do not work the same anymore. And I knew I had skills and strategies to share with chiropractors, and online obviously is the easiest and most effective way to do it. So that's what brought me to it, not, oh, can I make more money this way or can I detach from the practice? Those were eventual side effects and a very, very important note. And even literally when I first started, I was fortunate to find a friendship and a mentor who was very knowledgeable in the online world. And when he saw my passion for helping chiropractors and making a difference, I told him, listen, I just want to make YouTube videos and share them with the profession. And he said to me, that's great. You can do that, but no one's going to watch them and no one's going to pay to watch them either, or no, you're not going to make money from it. Why not set something up where you can benefit from it monetarily and the viewers will benefit from it even more? Because like you know, and you should know if you're listening, if something's completely for free, it's never going to be valued as much if there's an investment in it.
And I mean, here's the big thing too, is that you actually did it. So it wasn't just an idea, you executed on it. And what did that feel like? I mean, because I hear this all the time from chiropractors. They go, look, I get this great idea. I have this passion, yet they don't execute because they say, look, I have no following. No one knows who I am. Why would I even start? But I would suggest that everyone starts somewhere at building, with that fans, followers. I mean, it must have taken you, I love to talk timeline. So tell me a little bit of timeline, how this happened.
From the time I actually said, yes, I'm going to create something outside of my practice that's going to be virtual and online, I probably worked part-time for a full year. And I say part-time because no one knew about it. I wasn't accountable to anyone except myself. So probably some days, 10 days might go by and I didn't really put any energy. I don't remember. This was a few years ago. But for an entire year, part-time, I was putting together the program, the marketing, learning myself before actually letting anyone know or going live. And I've made every mistake in the book. I've done some things right, and it's worked out incredibly well. Probably one of the biggest important factors is that I didn't give up and I didn't stop. And the only reason I didn't give up and didn't stop is because of the time I put in before, because it was a passion and it was a purpose calling, as well as during it. Again, coming back, if it's not an inner calling, you're more likely to give up. You can go and find out how to put college football names on t-shirts and market to the right Facebook audience and maybe make some money, maybe not. But most likely that's not your calling and purpose in life. And as soon as it starts getting tough or, you feel like you're grinding it out or the profits aren't as good, you're going to give it up.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking for just how can I do it quickly or easily or make the money, that's the wrong way to get started. And that's the main reason isn't the tactics I implemented or what I learned. That's the 5 to 15%. The fact that it was a passion and a purpose is what made me stick through it and make sure it was worthwhile to continue and put myself out there to do.
Consistency.
Well, absolutely.
Consistency.
And now here's another. From the second it launched, then having an online space is much different than a brick and mortar. So brick and mortar, besides from what you decide to devote working on your business or on your practice strategically outside of your operating hours, pretty much you're only dealing with stuff during your working hours that you choose to. When you go online, anything could happen at any moment. And I don't just mean people can email you and ask you questions. Yes, you can decide when you respond to them, but everything is changing every week. There's always something new to adapt to. I mean, Ed, you saw the video I did yesterday. I did a Facebook Live video on my motorcycle.
It's cool.
While I was going. First time. Could have done it 10 times better. But you know what? There's no one out there teaching how to do Facebook Live on your motorcycle. I went through 3 different microphones, 2 different helmets, 2 different locations before it even came out so you could hear me. And the next time I do it, it'll be 10 times better. But it's the fact that I started, didn't stop, and keep going and adapting. And that's just a lesson for anyone out there. You got to expect that before you even start. And then once you start, you're at the mercy of everyone at any time and everything that can go right or wrong with the internet, which is far, far more than brick and mortar.
I talk to a lot of chiropractors. Like I interview a lot of chiropractors for my other podcast. I think I'm on 238 episodes of the TCP podcast. So, I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of those people are on the speaker circuit. Like in the profession, they go conference to conference, country to country, and continually speaking. You and I both, I think part of the reason why we connect is because we don't do that. We actually connect with people on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I have no desire. Like I hate going to airports, even if it's for a vacation. Like I don't like traveling. Most of what I do in life is different than the typical person or what society deems as like, this is the way to go. But listen, would I get more exposure? Would I probably have more members and clients? Possibly. But another thing that separates me and I think helps me in this space and being successful is that I'm not driven by money as the first thing. Money is so emotional and sways people's lifestyle and decision making. And yes, money is important and I'm all for increasing and building wealth, but that's not the number one driver in the decisions I make. And that helps too.
Contribution. So a lot of C words right now, but contribution would be the other one. So yeah, when you come from that place of contribution, it seems that the capital does flow towards you. I learned that from Alex Sharfin, but that is one of the things, like if I was to ask, and I know this because many people, again, at chiropractors or business people that I speak to, who is Dr. Josh Wagner? And they know who you are because of your online presence. So yeah, I like that you don't have to necessarily be someone who is the leader out front, doing the speaker circuit to actually make this work. So Josh, what would you say is your strength? I like to call it your superpower. It's the superior perception, the thing that you can teach like no one else can teach. What is it that you teach or what you provide that value?
When I saw the list of questions, that one actually got me the most. And my first thought is naturally leadership skills, both naturally as well as thousands of hours of developing of what I contribute to chiropractors and other professionals is really being able to listen and show you, getting you through whatever internal hurdle we all deal with at different times in our life, business, life, relationships, having incredible skills in that realm. But I think more so than anything, is what I alluded to a few minutes ago of having an inner balance and peace of mind that I've completely worked my ass off for. And I continually do every day. And I'm grateful for it. But that my strength is that I'm not in a rat race. I'm not, and I help people get to that space too.
Yeah.
That internal balance and peace of mind, which I did not always have. And that's why I saw the value in it. Yeah. That's what I'm so grateful for also. And I'm also curious, Ed, from our relationship over the past couple of years, you've seen me reaching out initially. I remember 2 summers ago for one of the first philanthropist podcasts. What would you say from your perspective, or maybe people who see me online, what would you say how I'm perceived as my biggest strength? Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, there's no right answer.
I know there's no right answer, but there's so many ways I could take this. If I could say one thing, I would say it's producer. Like you are a consistent producer. And that's what coming from someone like myself who respects, cause I know what it takes. Say, for example, when you do a video recording on your motorcycle, it looks like it was easy, but I know that was not something that just came together. You had to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So you're a producer, man. And I got to tell you, producers are the ones who make a difference. Right? You don't stand on the sidelines. You make things happen. You execute. So that's what I would say is your strength.
Thank you. And I was just going to show you, I know not everyone will be able to see a video of this, but this is a light day for me. If you can see, this is my agenda for the day. And I love it. From every minute pretty much accounted for from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. And that doesn't mean I'm just in work mode. I'm allotting the time for my meditation, my visualization, my detachment, but absolutely what you said, producing, it doesn't just happen. You've got to be disciplined and committed to it.
Yeah, I like that. Here, I'll just show you mine. It's the same pretty. It's the exact same thing.
And then by the end of the day, it's so gratifying seeing 90% of it marked off.
Well, and I was sitting next to a pilot, like a captain on a plane, and we were flying, I don't know, wherever we're flying, Austin or something. And he looks at me and I'm going through my journal, which is really just a ring binder, right, of lined paper. And he goes, it's good to see that I'm not the only person who still writes things down.
I love it.
Yeah. This is how you produce. I love it. So Josh, what would you say is your kryptonite? What is the weakness? What is the one thing, and I mean currently right now, that you are working on to actually improve your online business, or even, your practice, or it could even be in life?
Yeah, the number one thing, and this definitely relates to the online person, is I get caught up in the to-dos and the minutia because there's always things coming at me. And if you're in this space from left field, and being able to more appropriately delegate what I don't feel right now, I feel comfortable delegating, or the person I'm delegating to can handle these. So really outsourcing and delegating more and more, so I'm not getting caught up in as much of the to-dos and minutia. And that relates to the 24/7 accountability when you have a virtual and online business. But here's the thing, rather than that coming off as a turnoff, think about it from the beginning. If you're doing what you're passionate about, if you're doing what you feel your purpose is, having a full agenda, having more on your plate all the time, if it really is what your passion and purpose is, it's not going to feel like a grind, and it's not going to feel overwhelming. And that's what separates the people who stick with it and the 99.9% who don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, where they say hustle, I love Gary Vee. I love his stuff, but I don't really agree with the hustle. I mean, this is a guy who, when he's with his family on the weekends, from what I understand, I mean, he's on, but otherwise, I mean, he works. Yeah. And, I think the hustle is a little bit of bullshit. I'm more discovering that now in my life with all the different chaos and moving and all these things, that I can get a lot when I have 3 hours in my day to get shit done. I mean, honestly, I get a lot done in 3 hours. So if I hustle for 3 hours, I'll take that anytime. I'll punch that card.
Absolutely. And Gary Vee, I love his energy and mentality. And he's wired where that's his only mode. Mm-hmm. And you're not wired like that. I'm not wired like that. And there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean he's better or more. He's just wired like that. And I'll tell you how I'm wired, what I've learned. And it's funny, when you came out months ago with the logo and the branding of the laptop lifestyle, I laughed to myself and I'm like, wow, that's what I've produced. I did it. And at the same time, some of the things I've grown and learned along the process is I've freed myself up for, I really can have as much free time as I want. Yes, some things will slack in the business, but I've realized once I got it, that's not what I want. I go absolutely batshit crazy and get finicky. If I have a whole day free to do whatever I want, and I don't devote any time towards my business, which again is my passion and my purpose, it's not just something I do to make money, something doesn't feel right. So the lifestyle I was looking to produce, which was I could be anywhere, which is great. I love that. I can have the time off when I want it. I'm not tied to I have to be here at 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, actually didn't give me what I thought it was, which is that purely free, fulfilling feeling. And I have more fulfillment when I spend the first half of my day, even on a weekend or even on vacation, devoted towards pouring out my purpose onto writing, video, speaking with others, and then having the time off rather than, really a full day off. It feels like I'm not delivering on why I was put on this earth. And that goes to the testament of a lot of people have these goals and visions of what they want their life and career to be. And if they've never experienced it or had it before, it's not real. You don't know what it's going to feel like until you get there. And that's a huge fallacy. So that's not saying don't start the journey, but just make sure every step of the journey you're enjoying and having fun on it as well. And that's only going to happen if you're really doing what you're passionate and purpose driven about.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with that anymore too, than what you're saying is even in the morning, I'll get up and I just have this dedicated time of 1 hour where I'll do social media posts. I'll engage. I'll just be creative. I might do a video. I did a video this morning that was like a 2-minute video. When I was unable for a week to do any of that stuff, it drove me. I swear I was losing sleep. It was a little bit crazy. So that circles back on that word too for strength for you, which is a producer. I mean, I think a lot of people who are listening to this podcast, the listeners today, need to soak that in and go, look, this is not always going to be something where you can just completely step back and just go close the laptop. No, you got to open the laptop every day to actually have it become the ATM so that you can have that lifestyle. And you got to love it. You got to love it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't hear of anyone who looks back on their life and, let's say, successful and attributes it to one tactic they learned or one thing they did. Here, it's the consistency. Yeah. And if anything, you talk to most people and they look back on their life and they'll say, I wish I didn't work as hard, but that's not going from the other end of the spectrum. That means make sure you're putting your work and your devotion into areas that you, again, passionate about, purpose, and that work will be fulfilling, not just the results that you're hoping to get from the work. That's important, that your actual work is fulfilling. Your day-to-day work, the journey is fulfilling.
Doc, what is it that really just drives you crazy. You know, whenever you talk to people about the mindset of the online aspiring online entrepreneur, I know that you're in this space, so you must have friends. You must know people who are interested in getting into this space. But what is the misconception, the critical misconception that most people have?
Definite misconception is that it's easier and quicker than other forms of business. So listen, a business is a business. You've got to put the same amount of energy and hours, especially to get it off the ground, create it, and launch it. And this isn't to dissuade anyone from going into the online sphere, but just to know what you're getting into. And if it's purely just a side project, I don't know how to do that. Maybe there are ways, but if it's just purely a side project and you want it to replace your income or make it your primary income, I don't know how to do that. And so it's not that it drives me like bad here. I feel bad for people that are getting in for the wrong reasons because they're most likely going to drop out. And I feel bad. Yeah. It doesn't drive me insane. It just.
Yeah. Leaves you with nausea.
Yeah. And it's just like whether it's someone who wants to do, change their body type by paying for it rather than whatever. It's that's really not going to make the difference. You're still going to have that, let's say, insecurity on the inside, even though your nose looks better or you got the fat sucked out of you. It's like you really think this is just going to somehow be easy. Like winning a lottery. People who win the lottery, whether it's 10 years later, they have the same amount of money, but 1 year later, they're no happier. It's the same thing. It's that misconception of just basic life principles.
Because you do have a brick and mortar, and let's just call it a business, because you have a brick and mortar business and you also have an online business. They're both very successful. How do you find the balance there?
Well, so that's something I, at a certain point, definitely struggled with because both were hurting the other one. Mm. You can't put your focus on two totally different things, whether it's just like a relationship or anything in life. So part of the reason I developed the program for chiropractors, Perfect Patient Funnel System, was because what I mentioned earlier was I knew that it was missing for the profession. And I knew there were so many great practitioners that were getting misled with outdated strategies and not building the practice both monetarily and the inner fulfillment and ease that they could have because they weren't getting it from anywhere. At the same time, I got into chiropractic during my college years purely the philosophy of it, which most of the listeners, even if they're chiropractors, might not even know, but that's what drove me. And I realized that in practice, the day-to-day practice of chiropractic didn't fill me up as much as I thought it was going to. And even just a couple years into it, even though the money was good and the profits were good, I realized, you know what, if I'm doing this and the same thing in 10 years, something's off.
Yeah.
And so again, my reason for creating the online program for chiropractors wasn't to transition out of practice, but that's what's been happening over the past year or so, where I stopped taking on new patients well over a year ago, just reducing my hours. And now I have very, very minimal hours in practice, really catered to the lifers who I feel bad cutting off. And my real passion and purpose is the message that's through my online program. So just so others don't get confused, no, I'm not doing online and practice full time at a great level. Either I haven't learned to do that or not possible, but I also don't want to. The full time in practice doesn't allow me to deliver my most passion and purpose to this world.
Yeah. And I like this message. And this is a great message for people the listeners, is that it is possible because essentially it's two businesses. But you also have to understand, if your energy is devoted completely to one, that one will grow more than the one that you take your focus off of. So that's why I like to ask that balance question. Clearly, I've made that transition, close the doors on my office and my brick and mortar and doing what I'm doing today. But it is clearly, and I want to be very, and I say this all the time, even when I email, is that this is not for everyone, right? And this is something that chiropractors, they need to really consider when or doctors or whoever's listening that's an aspiring online entrepreneur, is that this is something that you do have to have a passion for. And I want to come back to the timeline, because the timeline always keeps coming back to this. It's always 6 to 12 months. That's what everyone's saying.
Absolutely. And following up on what you what we were talking about, it doesn't mean you can't do both. Like, I started on the side, and at the point where it was getting imbalanced, I was able to choose one or the other and not compromise income or lifestyle or any of that. So absolutely, you can start it on the side, and it takes that commitment and that persistence. And if you don't have the passion and purpose, you're not going to have that commitment or persistence. But yeah, for a whole year, part-time on the side, I was building it before any dollar came in.
Yeah.
And I would say that to anyone. It doesn't mean you're going to have to go income lists or online income lists for a year. Not at all. Hey, you can probably do stuff within a month if you do it really aggressively and do it really well. But the point is, I wouldn't recommend starting the endeavor unless you're okay with it taking a year part-time. Not stopping your day job and diving in full-time, but part-time on the side, as long as you're okay. And again, if it's something you're passionate about, you're going to be okay with it because it's going to be no different than you going out and playing golf or doing your hobbies, which you would have. You're just going to dedicate it towards this endeavor. And one of the best feelings was after that year of part-time, when I finally launched, I did the stereotypical like product launch type, here I am. And when I sent that email out at like noon on a Tuesday or Thursday, and this was a few years ago, like, okay, it's open. Within like 35 seconds, there was a first sale or new member. And it wasn't, it wasn't $19. It wasn't $49. It was like $2,500. And that was when it was like, awesome. Like it's working. Like, and again, I didn't do it for the money. And even when I see a new member come in or money come in, my thought is never like, oh, nice money. It's always like it's working. Like what I've set out to do, I've gotten my message in front of people's eyes. I've communicated in a way that made them trust me and feel confident that what I can give them can lead them to what they want. And I know without a shadow of a doubt what I'm giving them is going to make their life easier and be beneficial for the general public in terms of the chiropractic program of how to take care of those patients. So that's the feeling I get when I see a new member come in. And I think that's what differentiates why it works so well, why I'm successful, and why I've stuck with it.
I remember getting the first notification when I had a sale. And it wasn't because, like, honestly, it wasn't about the money. Like, just like you said, it was just like, oh my God, I made a sale. And also it was like, oh my God, I'm going to help someone. I'm going to really help someone with this. And someone sees the value of all the work that I've done. So it was almost like, yeah, some validation for what I'd created and what I've done. So I want to also just bring this back into really just one specific question, and it is a tactical question, Josh.
Definitely.
When you were looking at creating your brand, what was it like? Did you have help with that? Was there someone that helped you? Was it something that you just like, you know what, here's my thought process, and you just started writing it down and distilled it down to the business and brand that you have today? Or was there someone that helped you with it?
It's funny, of all the tactical stuff I feel I could share on, I feel like that's my least area of confidence. So I'm the first to admit I've made every single mistake. The majority of why I'm successful is because I've stayed through it. And even though if I've made 100 mistakes, I've done 15 things well enough right that does make it work. But my branding, everything from the name I chose, I mean, most people who've been inside the program for a year can't even pronounce it. Perfect patient funnel system. So like that was probably a mistake. I personally like the font of the logo. Other people see it needs to be updated. But I mean, to me, first of all, I don't even think that really matters unless people really can't have any idea, like, what the hell is that about in any sense. Obviously, perfect patient funnel system alludes more to it's for doctors. The mentor I had, he is very skilled in copywriting. He helped me develop my copywriting skills. Back when I created that logo and the name, I don't even remember where my headspace was. I don't think it's really made a big difference in making or breaking, but if anything, it's worse than it could have been. Yeah. And at this point, I don't think it's worth changing at all. It's just smarter for a next one to make it easier on the ears and the eyes and the saying it.
Well, clearly the chiropractic philanthropist was a difficult one for many people to say, but it stuck. And I would say the same thing about your brand. It's definitely memorable. So it was a good choice. And so I'm going to finish this up with just wrap up the podcast today with, this one question in the segment that I call, who makes it rain? So Josh, I want you to imagine this. You're in a room and it's completely full of incredibly successful online entrepreneurs. Who could make it rain? Like who is the master of the room? And that is the person is it this person, the one who has the most leads? Or is it the person who can make the most sales? Or is it the person who has the best systems and automation? So Josh, who makes it rain?
All right. So you prepped me with the questions. That's no surprise. When I saw that, that's tailored to how someone interprets the question. First, what does it mean, make it rain? What does it mean, success? For some people, success is purely what their income at the end of the year is, or what their asset, wealth value that they attribute at any point in their life. And I will answer the question, but what I feel is the better question is, what's valuable, important, and significant to you as to why you're living life, why you're in business, why you're thinking about the online world, what matters to you? Because there are plenty of people that can make more money by working harder and be a lot unhappier rather than making X amount of money, working a certain way, and being completely more fulfilled. And that does not mean working more and making more money equals unhappiness. Not at all. But I come from an area in Manhattan that I'm surrounded, and some of my closest friends and confidants are extremely monetarily successful, more than you could ever imagine. And their life is just in many ways in shambles. And it's such a plague of our society that just more monetary success means better or more significant or happy or more fulfilling. And if you just look at the studies, any study ever done where as long as you are meeting your life overhead, no extra increase in money equals increase in happiness. Now, that doesn't mean don't strive for more money and it makes things easier, but it's all about how you handle it. So just be careful get really clear on what matters to you, and be careful if what matters to you is something you've never experienced before, which is usually, it's always made up, and you don't know how it's going to feel when you get there. Focus on what matters to you based on what you've already experienced in your life, and how do you amplify that, and how do you remove anything else that isn't that in your life, in your daily business, because that's going to make things go a lot smoother, easier, and then probably produce more income, but it'll feel better. Now, to your question, Ed, God, who has more leads? That's going to show one thing, like who's more attractive. But leads, listen, if you're going by success by money or fulfillment, leads mean nothing. That just means how many people are following you. If you're going by sales, well, obviously sales equal income. And if you're going by success by income, sales does it. The automation, that's going to make things easier. That's going to make things more scalable. But if you don't have sales, automation means nothing. If you do, yes, that's very important. But what it comes down to is what's the life you want to live. And it's not about you thinking you have to be Gary Vee, or the person listening having to be Dr. Ed, or me, or anyone else you're seeing. You've got to get very clear on what do you want. And for some people, that may be 25 hours of work a week, making 60,000 or 120,000 or 180,000. And that life is so much more fulfilling than 80 hours a week making $400,000 a year or $1 million a year, because I've seen it around every single person, and it's not the monetary number. It's not the hours you put in. It's you choosing the life you want. And that's what you got to get clear on before you start learning the tactics or doing the diligence, because otherwise you're chasing a yellow brick road and you don't even know what's at the end. And that's why you see so many people who say they wish they would have done it differently, because they were chasing something that they didn't know what it was going to be like at the end. And one of your questions, Ed, was like, how am I going to know when I've really made it? There is no end point to making it. I either know I'm making it right now because I'm happy with how my life is going on a day-to-day basis. So the first answer is, I know I've made it. You've either made it or you haven't right now. Is your day and your life going? Are you happy and fulfilled? Are your relationships working out? And the second is knowing that you're never going to make it. There's no end point. Like if you're hoping to just retire at 65 with enough money in the banks to live. I was on the phone with a very successful chiropractor yesterday who told me the most depressing years of his life was when he was able to retire at 55. He started taking up golf, sailing, watching movies, and sleeping till 10. And it was the worst 4 years of his life. And since then, he didn't get back into practice, but he got back into businesses, and now he's back to fulfilling. So be careful what you're wishing for and what you're aiming for. If you've never experienced it, look to amplify what you know you love and have that in your life. And don't think there's ever any end point of making it. Ever, ever, ever. Make sure you're making it today on a daily basis, and then life's going to turn out if you keep that up.
This is a perfect answer to that. I love how people answer this question. I mean, anyone from, I've had entrepreneurs who are doing 150 million a year, 20 million a year to, multiple six figures a year. I mean, everyone answers that question differently. And here's one thing that I've learned, in just my short time in online business is the more stuff, the more money, the more, that I have, the less fulfilled it seems to give me. I thought that maybe that was the solution. It really isn't. The more time I have. So the scaling, when I start to scale things, now I'm just like bored. I don't know. What am I going to do with that time? It's all about it. Really, it is what do you truly want in life? So I love this answer. Thank you for and also identity. So it could be, like with the chiropractor you were talking about, he lost the sense of who he was when he retired and what gave him fulfillment. So thank you for that. I love that answer. So Josh, listeners right now, they're probably wondering, okay, I got to check out this guy's branding. I got to check out his website. I want to learn more about how he could possibly help me too. So what is the best way they can actually reach you?
If you're a chiropractor, go to perfectpatientfunnel.com, whether it's for my branding or actually learning strategies that I share with chiropractors. If you're not a chiropractor, the best way right now is to find me on Facebook, Josh Wagner, and see the videos I'm sharing, because even though the majority right now are catered to chiropractors, the principles and lessons are almost universal for whatever business you're in, whether business or life lessons. So you can see what I do on camera, the messages I'm sharing, my consistency. That's the two easiest routes to go.
Yeah. And I'm going to really encourage actually listeners to do that, is to actually, start following you. So follow Dr. Josh Wagner on Facebook. If you want to learn more about how you can create a bigger impact on Facebook, which is, undoubtedly one of the best ways to build fans and followers. And you can actually check out what he's doing with video and Facebook Live as well. So incredible. Good stuff.
And just to show some humility, when I first started putting myself out there online, I was so nervous to do a webinar. And a webinar, like a voice over PowerPoint, no one could even see me. Then, and then of course I got over that because I did it. I just said, fuck it. I got to do it. Otherwise, not going to work. 3 months ago, I was scared shitless of going on Facebook Live. Like, oh my God, What if I mess up? What if I don't say the right thing? Now it's at the point where I feel like an asshole if I don't do one every day, because not like, oh, I'm getting more exposure or views or likes or opt-ins, but I'm sharing my purpose. And if I don't do that, I'm giving up on myself and on the world. So if you're at a point where, oh my God, setting up a video and filming myself, just start taking the steps. I was there 2 years ago, 3 months ago, always adapting. And, hopefully that makes a difference for someone out there that, yes, I feel very comfortable right now clicking go live. 3 months ago, I didn't. And it wasn't because of someone's words of wisdom. It's because of actually getting out there and doing it. And you can too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love too how you're saying, where are you going to be in a year, 2 years from now? You don't really know. I mean, things are always changing. It looks like Snapchat's going to be taken out by Instagram now with their live streaming. So who knows? Maybe you'll be doing live streaming on Instagram in a week.
Yeah. Yeah. No idea. Yeah. And that's beautiful too, having that uncertainty, but knowing that if you stay the path and you're confident in what you're doing, it's all going to work out. All
right, listeners, you can head over to the laptoplifestylepodcast.com. You can actually find a dedicated webpage dedicated to our discussion with Dr. Josh Wagner today, plus all the clickable resources to everything he's provided. If you're actually listening on your mobile phone, like 60% of the people that are listening today, go ahead and expand those show notes and you can actually connect with Dr. Josh right now from those URLs, so those links. Dr. Josh Wagner, incredible. Probably a record for the number of podcast interviews I've done with a single guest. So thank you for giving back and sharing today.
Absolutely. And thank you for all you do. I know it doesn't go unnoticed, and all the value you give to your audience. Thank you, Ed.
Hey, I want to thank you for listening today. And if you're new to the podcast, head over to thelaptoplifestylepodcast.com and hear more from 6, 7, and 8-figure online entrepreneurs. Even better, head over to iTunes, give us a rating and review, and that will help us help more aspiring online entrepreneurs. Appreciate you and see you on the next Laptop Lifestyle podcast.